Everybody, I had some visitors come up. I thought I'd let you see this little one here. She was born New Year's night this year, and I'm gonna let her go now. And, so anyway, here tonight, we're gonna go over the second half of the Spiritual Inventory 2 lesson. Okay, lesson 11, and whew, got me out of air a little bit. Anyway, we're on sheet number 7 and we're on sheet number 8. Sheet number 7 at the top says your family. Sheet number 8 at the top says your church. So, it's going to be a little short lesson tonight. We kind of briefly summarized these two items last week, but we're basically at the last two items of this character trait skill set. Of the 8 different areas of your life that we need to do a spiritual inventory about. Number 7, we need to do a spiritual inventory about your family. And this means a lot of things. One thing it means, if you're a workaholic and you never see your family, that you might need to work on that. Another thing, if you're misusing your family, mistreating your family, if you're physically or mentally abusive, if you're neglecting your family, if you're ignoring your family, if you're not supplying what your family needs, On the flip side, we also have to keep this thing balanced and try to think of some positive things that you're doing for your family as well, okay? Remember, we're talking about balance. We have to have some balance. We can't just look at these ugly things because you're going to walk away from it, okay? Or you're going to get depressed. You got to find some positive things and keep, those things in mind. You might even get a post-it note, write a few positive, rewarding things down, and put it up beside your mirror in the bathroom so you see it every morning when you get out of bed and you're getting ready for work, okay? Whatever it takes. But don't get so deep in the abyss that you can't get back out, okay? So to speak. Joshua 24:15 says, if you're unwilling to obey the Lord, then decide today whom you're going to obey. But as far as me and my family, and this is Joshua speaking, we're going to serve the Lord. And basically what he's saying is, if you're unwilling to serve the Lord, who are you serving? You're serving somebody or something. You're a slave to somebody or something. And if you are stuck in the world, there's some kind of system in the world that might be keeping you from being who you can be, because you have a purpose. I mean, you're not some stupid robot, You got a purpose, man, or woman. You have a purpose. And finding that purpose is going to be the most wonderful, at the same time challenging thing in your life. But you do. We're not just animals. We're not just put here, for no reason. We're not just put here to do whatever we want to do and in the process hurt people, run over people, destroy people. We're here for a purpose. And, but here's the questions. Let me get back to these questions that you need to write down on your piece of paper, okay? First question under your family. Have you mistreated someone in your family? And do you do it on a regular basis? Mistreating them can be just not being there, And, that can be one of the things, not being there, being a workaholic and not being there with your family, okay? Just, God designed the family unit to help individuals weather life's storms. It's basically there. Any animal in the animal kingdom, if you've ever observed animals, and I'm not just talking about in a zoo, temporarily looking at animals, but if you've ever witnessed animals, like a chicken when she hatches out her babies, she goes around scratching and, helping them find food and taking care of them, protecting them if something tries to attack them. And as humans, we should be so much more so that way, The roosters try to protect them. If there's some dangers that come up, if they see a hawk, they'll let everybody know. If they see food, they'll let everybody know. Um, you know, be that individual in your family, whether you're the husband or the wife. You know, if you can't depend on your family, who can you depend on, basically? So if you're emotionally abusive, if you're sexually abusive, especially, um, but if you're physically abusive, and I'm not just talking about a little spanking or something, you know, properly placed spanking, and rewarding good behaviors and not rewarding bad behaviors. I'm talking about real, genuine physical abuse. You know, breaking somebody's arm, leaving a bunch of bruises all the time. You know, all this kind of, or just even once. I mean, is not good. So, you know, destroying somebody's self-esteem. I mean, repeatedly. I mean, there's a lot of ways to hurt someone that affects them for a big chunk of their life, you know. And one way is a spouse destroying their husband's self-esteem, or a spouse destroying their wife's self-esteem and calling them names and stupid and you'll never amount to anything, stuff like that. I mean, there's no reason for that. I mean, people need every opportunity they can to succeed, and they don't need that garbage, okay? So, you know, do everything you can to encourage them, because if they do well, you do well. If they don't do well, you don't do well. And then you leave them and then you end up blaming them for it, okay? So, be a good spouse, be a good parent. If this happened to you, I'm sorry. If you're doing it, it's something to work on, okay? It's something you really need to work on, because, that kid, or, they're going to be out in the world for a lifetime. They need every opportunity they can to make it. Next question. Who do you have resentment against in your family? Alright. This one is probably one of the hardest ones to answer, okay? Because you lie to yourself a lot. And it's easy to probably pick out a stranger out on the street, or basically someone at work, and say, well, hey, I kind of resent them for this reason or that reason. It's easier to do that than it is to pick out someone in your family, because you don't really want to admit to it because they're in your family. So, that's something that you may need to work on and pray about for a little while. But write that question down. If you need to come back to it, come back to it. But make sure you come back to it. Put down a little star, an asterisk or something, and a question mark, and come back to it. Who do you owe amends to? That's your next question under your family, under 7. Who do you owe amends to? We're going to do a couple of weeks chapter on this, a month or so, a couple of months down the road. But you need to go ahead and put this down and start writing some names down and what you did and this sort of thing. And then, just keep in mind, you don't have to make amends yet unless the Lord's leading you to do it. But we're going to get into some more detail about making amends later on, down the road in this process. We still have a good many lessons, probably 20 something lessons to go, and it's not too many more lessons. We're going to be talking about amends. Amends are very important, not only for your healing but for the healing of other people, okay? So, write their names down, and now we're going to go ahead and move on to sheet number 8, okay? Sheet number 8, and this is the last facet of the spiritual inventory that we're going to talk about. We're going to move on to something else next week, okay? And this is a sensitive subject to some. Really, all of this is sensitive to some. But your church is the next item. Just keep in mind, your church is God's church, and it's the other people's church that's going there. So, it's everybody's church that's in attendance. And if you're not going, it can be your church. You can be part of the process, and I encourage you to do so. But Hebrews 10:25 says, let us not neglect our church meetings as some people do, but encourage and warn each other, especially now that the day of his coming is getting near, is drawing near, okay? And look, Jesus is going to come back one day. I used to read Revelation and all this, and I really do think that we're getting near the end times. You can't really spell out a day or anything like that, but there's some signs there, some scriptures in the Bible that are pointing towards some things going on today that's looking like, it's looking like it might even be in my lifetime if I live the next 20 years, okay? But I can't say that it's going to be in 20 years. If my kids live out as long as my parents did, they're going to see it in their lifetime. But one of the signs is that knowledge is going to increase during those days, and I think everybody's calling this the information age. I call it the misinformation age. But the internet is definitely in colleges, and more people can read and write now than probably any other time in history. And there's more people in the world. It's went from 1 billion. It took all of history up till 200 years ago to get 1 billion people in the world. Before that, it was in the millions. But in just 200 years, we went from 1 billion to 8 billion people. And the only way that's going to slow down is either through major war or forced sterilization, or major plagues, basically death. I mean, death on a mass scale. You can't just, some of the experts are trying to say with the UN that this thing's probably the bell curve is going to slow down, and it's going to probably top off maybe in another 20 years. It ain't gonna top off unless there's a lot of people dying. I promise you. I mean, and either way, it's not looking good, okay? Because 20 years isn't very far away. I mean, it's really not. So, but anyway, basically what I want to say is Jesus is gonna come for all of us sooner or later. It doesn't have anything to do with Revelation. We're going to die. It might be today. It might be next week. It might be a month from now. It might be next year. It might be 10 years from now. No one knows the day. None of us know the day. Only God knows the day. But we're going to die. So, and there's people starving to death and shriveling up to nothing. We don't even think about stuff like that. We don't want to. Our mind don't even want to go there. Just like, one reason I think, it's a theory of mine, but I think one reason people ignore child abuse, and you never see it in the news, and families don't seem to want to talk about it, and little girls go tell their mother that their uncle or somebody's doing something to them, and their mother wants to ignore it because they don't even want to believe that kind of thing exists, that kind of evil exists, And so people don't, when I sit here and say, well, it's like Revelation in some parts of Africa, man. People are starving to death. I mean, literally, the kids look like, it's terrible. I can't even imagine. People here are complaining that they're poor and they're eating steaks on Friday night, and then people over there are just shriveling up and dying, and flies and maggots and living people. I mean, it's horrible, horrible thing. People don't want to think about that stuff. But look, it's revelations happening somewhere all the time, and God's coming sooner or later. He's coming. So, there's a lot of garbage in the world. We talked about that last week. Hollywood, radio, the internet, news sites are polarizing everybody, and they're making a profit off of it because their advertisers are paying more. When people are polarized, they look at TV more. They want to look at the TV, see what's going on next, man. They keep up with every little detail about someone getting killed, halfway across the country, but they could care less about someone getting killed in their own community. It's really messed up, man, what that TV's done to people's heads. I'm telling you. Protect your mind. So with all this stuff going on in the world, the best place you can be is in church, okay? Hebrews 10:25, like I said, says, don't neglect the church meetings. You need something positive in your life, You need something positive in your life. And yeah, true, you can pray and you can talk to God and read your Bible at home, but but it was intended for you to go to church and be with other believers and to try to build something uh, and help the community that you're living in. And the churches, there's a lot of people that, a lot of people nowadays, there's more people than ever before that are openly talking against the church. But if the church wasn't there, uh, and this whole new spirituality thing where people think they can do whatever, and they're hurting people and they're addicted themselves to all kinds of things. Look, it's bad enough when an individual is messing up their life, but collectively, when an overwhelming majority of civilization starts going into a certain negative place, a certain negative area, it could turn into hell pretty quick, here on earth. And so, church is your best chance to stop that, is to be in church and to encourage everybody to be in church. And because there's a lot of ugly stuff out there. You don't have to watch too many Hollywood movies not to see that, hey man, this, or some of these HBO series and Netflix series, you don't really have to think about that very long to see how that could have negative effects on things, okay? So, have you been consistently faithful in attendance at church? If you haven't, it's a good time to start. It's a good time to make sure your kids are there because, man, there's a lot of stuff. If you love your kids, there's a lot of bad stuff out there in the world right now. It's a lot of bad things. And, they need every chance they can get. And church is a good place. A good family life and a good church life is great thing. Write this question down. Have you been critical and used that to justify why you haven't been going? That's just the justification thing. Why people, we all do it. To a level degree. Some people do it more than others. But when you don't do something, you justify why you don't do it. Thieves do it. They say, well, that person don't deserve that, because of this or because of that. I'm just going to go steal it. Thieves, they have to lie to themselves to sleep at night too, And people lie to themselves every day. So if you're not in church and you're using some reason to justify why you're not going, you need to write that down, And some people have even taken it so far as to not only are they not going to church, but they're trying to stop some of their family members from going to church. Don't do that. Get on board with them and you go too, okay? And if somebody hurt you in the past that was a member of the church, everybody's human and potential to hurt somebody. There's people at work that hurt you too, and there's friends that's hurt you in the past. Humans are humans. Humans are humans. Now, if they've done something really bad to you, you just got to knock that off. They would have done that anywhere you are. Just anybody. Not everybody that goes to church is a good person. And some people specifically go places like churches and schools where kids are to do bad things. And it's not the church. It's just because that just happens to be where kids are. In other words, I'm talking about pedophiles, and there's sick individuals. They'll go anywhere where kids are. So you can't blame the church for that, okay? If you want to make some changes, or if you get involved, be a part of your church, okay? Have you discouraged any of your family from going to their church? Don't do that, okay? Now look, so those are the two things we talked about this week, and I'm about to wrap this up with Isaiah 1:18, which says, no matter, and this is a reminder, okay, because we're looking at this inventory, no matter how deeply red your sins, and this is God speaking through Isaiah here, I can take it out and make you as clean as freshly fallen snow. And that's pretty white, that's pretty clean, okay? No matter how deep stand your sins. So don't be scared of looking at these things, no matter what it is, okay? Don't be scared. If you physically abuse someone and you're struggling and have anger problems, or if you, ever did anything in your past that was really bad, don't be scared to look at them. you know, God can heal you. God can let all this stuff go. And, you know, so anyway, that's the thing. Just keep it balanced. You've done some good things in your life, and you've also done some bad. But keep your inventory balanced. And but you got to look at these things from the past that you haven't been able to look at and heal from. You know the things I'm talking about. The things that cause you to relapse. Uh, the things that, you know, when you get a reminder of them, you go off and you drink a case of beer. Or the things that when you get a reminder of it, you go work yourself to death and work 100 hours a week, you know, when you're a workaholic. Or the things when you get a reminder of it, you go and get stoned, or you go party, you go chase women, and women you don't even know, you know, and you have one night stands, you know, on a regular basis. And every time you get triggered, I mean, you gotta stop doing that. You gotta spend some time thinking about these things and making an inventory, and then healing from them. You know, I mean, just gotta do it, and that's part of this process. And have your sponsor, have your accountability partner. You got God on your side. You just gotta talk to him. Okay, he's there for you. You'll feel you pray with him enough, and you'll feel that peace come over you, and you know he's there. You've done that before. You know, if you're a Christian, you've done that before. You know he's there. You feel that peace. You know, you're praying about this, praying about this, praying about this, and all of a sudden you just feel this peace. You know he's there. Okay, and so just do it. Keep the scales balanced. Make sure you have that accountability partner or sponsor. Pray with God every day. And with that, I'm going to leave you, and I hope you have a good week, and I'll see you next time.